So if you've been sticking with me for the past 2 weeks or so, you've probably seen endless amounts of OnePlus 7 Pro content, from speed test to camera test to my full review that I posted last week. And I think it's finally time to compare the 7 Pro to the last numerical gen OnePlus phone, the OnePlus 6, which was my previous Android daily driver. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into this comparison here. But first off, I want to just mention that this video is sponsored by Autosonic, who sent me this really dope Google Home Mini stand. Not only is it really easy to put together, but it just cleans up the overall look of the Google Home Mini here, and it also cleans up cable management. So yeah, it's a really dope little setup for your Google Home Mini. It's available on Amazon for $13.99, so it's very affordable, and yeah, I'll leave a link in the description if you are interested. So right off the bat, beginning with design, the ergonomics or feel in the hand is going to feel a bit different. Both are premium, made out of premium materials, metal and glass. However, just these sides are a little bit less sharp with the OnePlus 6, as the display is flat on the front and there's no curve with the glass like there is on the 7 Pro. The 7 Pro has curved glass, like I said, and the edges kind of cut into your hand a little bit more, kind of like an S device from Samsung. So I would say the OnePlus 6 is a little bit more comfortable to hold. However, the OnePlus 7 Pro is a beautiful device, and we'll kind of get onto that. It's just a little bit more awkward to hold in your hand, but with the case, both phones are actually quite comfortable to operate. They also share a very similar design. Obviously, these are both OnePlus devices, and they share the same button placement, and they both feature the slider, which enables you to manually toggle notifications, which is a really useful feature. I also want to mention that the OnePlus 7 Pro is a little bit heavier than the OnePlus 6, actually noticeably heavier, so that might add to the premium feel, I guess. The heavier the device, the more one may perceive is in the phone itself. I don't know if that's super important, but that is something I wanted to note. And yeah, again, both of these phones look and feel great. They're premium in their own right, especially for their price range, but I do want to mention that the display on the OnePlus 7 Pro is just really beautiful. It's notchless, and we'll also get to that as well. It's a very, very stunning design feature that the OnePlus 6 unfortunately doesn't have, because it has a notch and just an older, not as expansive display, as you can see. The speakers on both these devices are very different as well. The OnePlus 6 kind of had a down-firing, sort of tinny, not the best kind of speaker. It works, but the 7 Pro introduced Dolby Atmos stereo audio, which is miles better than the previous gen, even with the 6T. The vibrating motors of the haptics in both these devices are very different as well. The OnePlus 6 had a very simple vibration motor, so I kind of turned that off because, as you know, with Android, it'll automatically turn it on for haptics. But with the OnePlus 7 Pro, the haptics and the vibration motor are linear. It's kind of more of like a tap than a vibration, and it just feels a ton better. If you've used a Pixel device or an iPhone, you know what I mean. It really does add to the UI a lot. Moving on to display here, while both of these phones have 18:9 plus displays, obviously the OnePlus 7 Pro is going to look a lot better with this pretty much edge-to-edge notchless display. It's also higher resolution as well, with the 1440p resolution, a little bit more than that actually, compared to the little bit more than 1080p resolution found with the OnePlus 6. On top of being higher resolution, the 7 Pro's display is also 90 Hz, which is something that we're going to discuss in the performance segment of this comparison, but let me tell you, it is really, really great. But even with their differences, both displays here on both devices look really great. They're both OLED, they both have comparable color, contrast, and just the overall quality of the images, like I said, very similar. Both are great for media consumption, on YouTube or Instagram and whatnot. Another difference with the 7 Pro is that the display glass is curved, as we mentioned, which does kind of compromise ergonomics with the phone, but it does look really, really nice. Some people had some things to say about it. I wasn't completely on board with it at first, but it looks really nice, and I love how the UI wraps around it. It just gives it a very futuristic look, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, both of these displays should suit you just fine for pretty much any task. Both are beautiful and sharp, but if you don't want to see any pixels at all, I mean, like if you put your eye right up to the display, you're not going to see any pixels with the 7 Pro, and you want that notchlessness and the 2.5K resolution, then OnePlus 7 Pro is definitely going to be up your alley and may be worth the upgrade if you have a previous gen device. Moving into battery life, I don't have exact numbers for you. However, I do believe that the OnePlus 6 did get me more screen on time than the 7 Pro, and that makes sense because the 7 Pro has a higher resolution display and a higher refresh rate display, which does drain battery a bit more. But something that OnePlus 6 does not have is warp charging. While it has dash charging, which is plenty fast, warp charging or 30-watt charging is just insanity. I mean, I mentioned this in my full review. You plug it in, you forget to charge, you can get 35-ish% in like 5 minutes. It is insane. Their OnePlus advertises you can pretty much charge for 20 minutes and have, a full day's power. It's really, really convenient. So basically what you're choosing between is a bit better battery life and pretty fast charging, or a bit worse battery life and really, really fast charging. Personally, I go with the latter option, which is the OnePlus 7 Pro, but the OnePlus 6 has nothing to scoff at even in 2019. It has a very great battery capacity and charges very quickly with Dash, as I mentioned. Moving into camera, like I said in my reviews, you do not buy a OnePlus device for the camera performance. That's just a fact. They pour their money into different aspects of their phones, particularly performance, as I've mentioned many times in the past. The OnePlus 6, as we know, offers a dual lens setup, wide angle plus telephoto, whereas the OnePlus 7 offers a triple lens setup, which brings the addition, or this is the biggest difference, it offers an ultra wide lens, which is a feature I really love. I love taking ultra wide images because it gives you flexibility in, tight spaces, and I also like the look that you get from that really wide field of view. And yeah, both these phones, even with a year apart in age, they both take really decent, more than adequate images and video. But I'll say this again and again, they don't take anything exceptional, even with the updates that came with these phones that did improve their camera performance. OnePlus 7, however, actually does have a bit of an edge here as it is a generation newer. I noticed the dynamic range is quite nice. Optical image stabilization might be a little bit better too. And also, speaking of video or stabilization, video is very comparable to the iPhone XS Max, which is a really good sign. So if you are into smartphone video, then OnePlus 7 Pro might be the device for you, although keep in mind the mic quality isn't as good as what you'd find on an iPhone. It's not stereo, it's pretty average, I would say. But yeah, video taken with the OnePlus 7 Pro seems to be definitely better than what I remember with my OnePlus 6. Also, to mention a final difference, it's with the pop-up camera with the 7 Pro. I mean, it doesn't really offer an advantage, and the images taken with both these devices from the front look pretty similar. However, the pop-up camera is kind of an eye-catching thing. It's kind of a party trick and a fun little feature to have, and also enables that notchless display, so that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, overall camera performance between these two devices doesn't seem too much different, especially maybe if you use Gcam or a third-party app. However, there are some slight differences and, enhanced features with the 7 Pro that might be worth checking out or upgrading to, particularly the ultra-wide camera, a better low-light performance, I would say, and a better video, like I mentioned as well. And lastly, let's talk performance. This is where things get important. And I'll say OnePlus 6, even a year later, a Snapdragon 845 paired with 8 gigs of RAM paired with Oxygen OS is still blazing fast. I actually sold my OnePlus 6 to a kid who was using a Moto E, and it was the biggest upgrade of his life to him, and he just keeps telling me how fast this phone is, and it still is. It's blazing fast. However, with the OnePlus 7 Pro, things are taken to the next level. You got Snapdragon 855, which is already 20% faster than the 845, paired with up to 12 gigabytes of RAM, paired with Oxygen OS, paired with a 90 hertz display, which we're bringing back here. It's just an insane experience. It's nothing like you have ever used before. It is a very, very quick device, just insanely quick, beyond blazing fast. This is the fastest smartphone I have ever laid my hands on. The UI is just buttery smooth, and again, the increased refresh rate just makes a world of a difference in everyday usage. So yeah, there's definitely a noticeable, discernible difference in performance and overall feel with the UI or software experience between these two devices and with the 6T as well, because the 6T featured the same specs as the OnePlus 6. This is something to think about. This is probably the biggest reason to upgrade to the 7 Pro because of its just really insanely fast performance. And to also quickly touch on biometrics, they're actually quicker with the OnePlus 6, and it makes sense because it has a rear-mounted fingerprint sensor rather than an in-display one, which is a newer technology, and it also has a fixed camera, so facial unlock is quicker because no motorized camera has to pop out. So yeah, with the OnePlus 7 Pro, the face unlock is pretty much as quick as the camera can pop out and pop back in, and the optical sensing or the optical fingerprint sensor in the display is a bit slower because once again, it is a newer technology. But what I will say is that the in-display fingerprint sensor, I found it to be a bit more convenient than the back-mounted one because you can just unlock it on pretty much any surface, whether in your hand or on a table, and it just is another kind of party trick of this device. It's a really cool futuristic feature, and I actually really do enjoy using it. So my final verdict here, I would say out of the two, the OnePlus 6 is going to be the better value device. I mean, it's pretty much 75 to 80% as quick as this device. It has similar camera performance, a bit better battery life, still quick charging, great design. You can find it for like $350 on eBay. However, the OnePlus 7 Pro is definitely worth it in my eyes, so it's worth the $670 to $750 that you're spending on it. I certainly have enjoyed mine. And yeah, if you're using a OnePlus 6 or a 6T, I don't think it'd be a terrible idea if you sold yours or traded it in to get the 7 Pro. It's definitely worth upgrading to in several regards with the beautiful design, the just expansive notchless display, the Dolby Atmos speakers, the insane charging, and the really, really quick performance, faster than it ever was. So yeah, I definitely think that the OnePlus 7 Pro is worth it, especially if you are into tech like I am, or you just want the best performing device you can find. And yeah, that about wraps things up. I hope this video helped you out. I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like on this video, comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and subscribe for more content like this. Again, check out Autosonic's Google Home Mini Stand if you're interested, link in the description. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.